think that, you know, the tearing down the old mines, the water wells, the old ranches, any of that stuff, that's problematic for me. And it's just simply, it doesn't accomplish anything. I mean, it really doesn't save any species, it doesn't save anything. And a lot of the people, when you say, let's say visual, I mean, that's so subjective that there is no objective criteria to say something is offensive. A lot of people didn't like his barn out south of town. I like the barn. I like farms. I like that stuff. So, I mean, it's apples and oranges, chocolate vanilla. So anyway, that's one of the things I'd like to see. I have a fundamental issue with the wilderness areas. Unless there's some absolutely compelling reason, there shouldn't be any. That just basically, as remote as those places are, nobody will ever go there. You can't walk in the desert 2 miles out there. It won't be used. If you deny access via equestrian or motor vehicles, they won't be used. The roads, I know there have been roads closed. That's fact. So, you know, and so it creates this distrust or concern that if you've done it in the past, what's to prevent you from deciding that it's causing considerable adverse effect? Again, a subjective criteria based on one person or 2 people, or whoever's the committee's decision it is, that decides that. And when could that be used to close legitimate travel paths, including washes, which people have been driving and riding and walking down washes for thousands of years. It's the easiest mode of transportation. I guess the final thing is I just think that alternative 1, in my opinion, right now is the most palatable. If that means doing nothing, then that's certainly my most palatable alternative. And with that, I'd just ask you to see what you can do about the deadline and move on.
Councilwoman Delaney.
I would also like to just thank both of you for being here. You are very welcome from our point of view. I would like to see this deadline extended. I agree with George. You know, maybe it's been out there 150 days, but if we didn't know about it for 150 days, and maybe that is our fault, then it didn't do us any good. And it didn't do any of our citizens any good. I would also like to see the possibility of maybe encouraging some kind of public meeting here with the BLM to help our citizens understand what the different alternatives mean to our area. I think that that's important as we look at all these things. I agree with them. Alternative 1 is, if when in doubt, do nothing is sometimes the best alternative. And if we look at it though, we might want to have our citizens and citizens in the surrounding area, because you said you have meetings all these other places, and this is going to greatly affect us. We are further out. We're 80 miles from Vegas or any of the other areas. We're out here on the edge of Nevada, and it's really important to us. And I would like to encourage you to possibly find a way to get your bosses to hold a public meeting to help people understand this very lengthy document and how it will affect us, not only the whole BLM, plan, but how it's going to affect us and people around us. And once again, thank you for your time.
Councilman Withholder.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I pretty much concur with what the rest of the council has spoken this afternoon. Due to the fact that we are running up against the wall here in about 6 days, that this deadline is approaching, how soon do you think you might get an answer as to an extension? I know I don't want to hold you to the fire, but is there a time frame certain that we could get an answer for this?
I will take it to the district manager today, and we will get an answer to you. I'll turn that around immediately.
Okay, that's. I think that would be beneficial to all concerned. I think everybody would have a chance to air their laundry, and we can revisit all of the pertinent points to this and go from there. Thank you.
Councilman Rapson had a comment, and then Councilman Green.
Yeah, just one follow-up real quick. You know, Ms. Elstad also brought up the utility issue. I think that is a critical issue to Mesquite. The land disposition and utilities, probably above and beyond everything else at the end of the day, without water and without the ability to expand our boundaries, those are major concerns for the city of Mesquite. So I would like to reiterate that those are critically important to me and to a lot of the citizens in Mesquite, and to prevent mechanized vehicles or anything out there in some of these areas where they might be able to tap water. New wells would be a real disaster for us. Now, and having said all that, if nobody has any more comments, I've got, is it appropriate to make a motion, or are we making a motion?
Councilman Green does have a comment.
Oh, okay. I can give direction.
Go ahead. Should be on.
This is brief, just the fact that if it's going to take 12 months for the, we're going to take all these comments into consideration to come out with a final plan. It would seem like to have a better final plan, a little extension of time. Extension of time for input here would be appropriate. Same thing others have said, so I just encourage you, the fact that we didn't have any meetings up here and the fact that we could have a more all-inclusive plan if we had some extra time, that you should use that when you talk to whoever makes that decision. Thank you.
I also might comment, I did say that in the beginning, that time is really important. And I think, and I don't look at it as really threats against either one of you by anybody here. I think it becomes a general frustration in general bureaucracy. The short notices, even though it wasn't a short notice, the short notice of the people in this area, I think, and to answer the question of one gentleman, why we as a city council didn't act on any of this earlier. We weren't really asked to act on any of this as a council at that time until the appropriate time. And of course now we're at that time, and I think we seriously need an extension of this to formulate it. There are so many, and as all of you out there, if you do take one of the DVDs, and I encourage everybody to, I think there's quite a few there, to encourage you to do so. As you start to go into this, you find out how terribly complicated a document it is. In a matter of 150 days, I don't think you could really analyze all of this and absorb it, and then come up with comments that would be befitting. And with so many choices and permutations of the choices, it will take a lot of concentration to do so. So I do encourage everybody to please go through this document, and you'll see how complicated it is. And I think it'll give you a little clearer answer when you can translate it all. Thank you. Councilman Hafer.
I'd just like to say thanks to those. Got to learn how to run the mic too. I would just like to say thank you for your participation. Respect is whether you disagreed or didn't disagree with those that spoke. That's how we come to conclusions. I will say though that shame on us. Yeah, it's been on the registry, but I would just like to put it out there because I know that there were some from Mesquite that were in attendance when Reed and Titus introduced the NCA bill. This guy right here is the mayor of Mesquite. He wasn't invited. None of the council were invited. I know there was a former councilman that was invited. He's no longer one of the sitting representatives. Mr. Lippman is our mayor. So whoever needs to get the information to the end of the row, they pass that along. Mr. Lippman's been elected to represent the city of Mesquite. So I'd just like to throw that in. But once again, I appreciate the comments, appreciate your participation. And I too concur that we need more time.
Councilman Rapson.
If it's appropriate, I'd like to give staff direction, or ask for a consensus on direction from staff.
Go ahead.
My suggestion is that it sounds like alternative one is the preferred alternative. I would hope that we can get an extension, but if we don't hear that we have an extension by Monday, the 9th of March, that our comments are adopt alternative 1.
Okay. We have, I believe, a motion on the floor. So we would need a second in order to put this into the record.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
There are some things that staff recommended that are not in alternate 1 that could potentially affect development where ACEC is replaced. Some of they are detrimental to our growth. I would suggest maybe that we incorporate some of those things that staff has seen as they've researched this, incorporate in that motion to be included in alternate 1.
I withdraw and let that be the motion,
Okay, Mr. Seacrest.
which I'll second.
Wait a minute. Want to do that again? I'm not sure. I believe the motion was withdrawn.
Mine was withdrawn.
Okay. Councilman Withelder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it might be a little bit premature to make a motion. If we're going to get an extension and get a further clarification on this, if indeed an extension is possible, then I think it might be the appropriate time to consider which avenue we'd like to take. Until then, I think it's apples and orchards. Thank you.
Councilman Rafson, have a comment?
I happen to respectfully disagree. We don't have a meeting. The deadline is before our next meeting. We do not have an opportunity to make a motion as to what alternative we prefer before the next council meeting. The deadline, should the deadline expire, not get extended, we need to have a plan. And I'm suggesting that, I believe what Councilman Hafen said, it would be what staff, Richard Seacrest, proposed in the last council meeting, which was alternative 1 in many cases, and I think alternative 4 in several cases, which benefited the city in certain respects.
Okay, Councilwoman Delaney, comment?
Okay, I'm just gonna clarify because I'm confused. All right, so I agree that we don't need to leave it open-ended because of the fact that if the deadline runs out and we've made no comment, then we're at the mercy of others. So what I believe Councilwoman Hafen and Rapson have said collectively was that we prefer option 1 with all of the staff recommendations as set forth in Mr. Seacrest's comments last meeting.
Okay, Councilman Hafen?
Is that what you said? That was a question.
That's what I said, but maybe
Okay.
Richard could elaborate on those
Yeah,
points.
if you just give us the specifics of what we'd like added to alternate 1.
Let me just quickly go through some of these topical areas. As far as the disposal boundary go, the alternatives 3 and 4 best address our needs because they show Riverside, the Riverside area and Flat Top Mesa as disposal areas. Alternatives 1 and 2 don't. That's where we're going to grow in our southwest area. So alternatives 3 and 4 for the disposal boundary, I think, would work for Mesquite. Areas of critical environmental concern, we prefer alternative 1. The recreation management areas, I think we prefer alternative 4, but we'd like to see Riverside, or at least the Riverside disposal area, in the public lands not designated RMA category. As far as off-highway vehicles go, alternative 1's our preferred alternative. Solar energy zone, alternative 4 shows a proposed solar energy zone at Riverside. All of the other alternatives show Flat Top Mesa as an avoidance area. That avoidance area does have a variance procedure where if there were a project that could possibly be approved, I guess I feel okay with that. We want to encourage alternative energy projects, but some areas need to be protected, and flat top is probably one of those. As far as wind energy goes, alternative one shows Flat Top Mesa and Riverside being open, and I think that's a mistake. We don't want to see wind turbines popping up on Flat Top Mesa. We prefer to have that shown as an avoidance area, Flat Top, and maybe allow it in Riverside. The fluid lease of minerals, that is oil, gas, natural gas, geothermal resources. Probably prefer alternative 3, but would like to see Flat Top Mesa and the Riverside disposal area closed to those mineral explorations. The visual resource management topic, alternative 1 is our preferred alternative. Alternative 4 could be a second choice, but again, I would recommend alternative 1. As far as wilderness goes, I think we prefer alternative 1. Either of alternatives 3 or 4 would probably be the second choice if alternative 1 were selected. I know that's just a real quick run through, but the problem is there isn't one alternative that gives us everything we want. You have to look at the topical areas and how they're treated under the various alternatives to determine how they impact Mesquite. We're going to have to go through item by item like that to pick recommendations that make sense for us.
Councilman Haven.
Well, before we confuse everybody with the direction Richard just gave us and with the different alternates, I think Gail said nothing decided, nothing final. So I would suggest that we have Richard put together our series of alternates with the different designations so that we as a council maybe better understand that directive and what we're going to submit to the BLM. And I would also recommend that if it's not alternate 1, that I'm not really excited about some of the other choices, the secondary choices, because there's some negatives that could be there.
Councilwoman Delaney.
I agree with what Councilman Haven just said. I will go with the caveat though that what we really prefer is more time. And also, I would just like to mention that we're going to have our IT guy put the website and their contact information, which is the last slide of their presentation, up on the screen at the end of the meeting. So if you want their information and weren't able to get it earlier, it will be up at the end of the meeting.
Okay, so we have no motion, I believe. Councilman Rapson?
Yeah, now I'm confused, and I apologize. So yeah, I would like to see what Richard's specific recommendations are on each one of the particular items, disposal, recreation management, so on and so forth. But I think we need to have something in the event that we don't get an extension and we do not have another meeting. We have to have some direction to staff to file on Monday, because that's the deadline. And frankly, I don't know what the chances are of an extension. I mean, you're going to ask, but we're one little town that kind of got left out of the process in a lot of respects anyway, so I'm not sure how much weight we carry here. So I'm inclined to think, sadly, that we may not get an extension. So I think we have to have a plan. So I guess that's where I'm confused. What are we doing? I mean, I'd like to see him come up with a recommendation, and we can say we're good with that, and that's what goes in Monday if we don't get an extension. If we do, then we don't submit anything at this point. I'm not sure what to do.
You could put that in the form of a motion, which is feasible.
We'll have to say all of that again.
Sweet.
I won't remember it.
Am I correct on that?
Oh, yeah, you
Would
could
be-
put it in the
yeah.
form
Can I
of
make
motion.
that my motion?
That was
What
your
I just
motion.
said?
Yeah.
Sure.
What I just said was my
Yeah.
motion.
Can we have that read back? The answer was no. I think with paraphrase what Councilman Rapson said is that we will go with the recommendations of Mr. Seacrest unless we have a deadline. So up until the last minute, we would use what Mr. Seacrest has offered, which I think is probably the most researched of anybody up here right now. Is that about what?
That's correct, and if we do get an extension, then we'll hold off until we can reconvene and have a more in-depth discussion.
Okay, so that would be.
Nothing would be submitted.
Councilwoman Delaney.
I also, maybe I misunderstood again, was that with Richard to get us some more explanations before Monday? So that we might send him back our comments or
And we can ask
going
for-
with staff recommendations if we don't get the extension?
I think we can all ask him for any additional material we want. I think it's
Okay.
more or less, we go with what he suggests on Monday if we don't have an extension.
Okay, we need a second to the motion. Yes. Councilman Haven.
I will support that with the caveat, with some of the alternates that your suggestion is the secondary backup. I prefer that we leave that with alternate one when there's some question on the second choice. Because I don't want people thinking that we're supporting some of those that could be construed in a negative way.
Was that a second?
Yeah.
That was a second. Call for the vote. That motion passed. Okay. All right. We are now at final public comment, and you may come up, state your name, 3 minutes, please.
My name is Barbara Elstead, again speaking as a private citizen. Your comment earlier that when you were speaking to Mr. Hafen, you made a comment that, well, those options are available, but that doesn't mean we would use them, or words to those effect. And that's exactly what scares me the most. Those options are there, they can be used. So that scares me tremendously. I'm going to venture to guess that Henderson has 10 times the number of people that Mesquite does. But I'm going to venture a guess that there are more people from Mesquite who have been to Gold Butte area than the entire city of Henderson. So I am greatly disturbed that everyone else within this plan region had an opportunity to get a better understanding of this than the people in Mesquite. I learned more from Mr. Seacrest's presentation at the last city council meeting about the alternatives and each of the sections than I did today from supposedly the masters of the plan. So I would wholeheartedly endorse what the council just passed, and we deserve and need a public forum meeting on this plan in Mesquite, and a much better explanation of every alternative in every area and the impact of all of those. I was hoping for more than simply how to provide comments, because out of 2,000 pages, what are we going to comment on? So, thank you.
Mr. Sutton again, once again. I had a hind thought after I went back and I sat down, and I was listening to the folks here as they were discussing this plan. I listened to the other gentleman's remarks about the National Conservation Area and so on and so forth. You know, this all sounds really nice. I mean, they paint a real pretty picture here. But I'm remembering something. Last year, last April, when all the chaos started out here, I remember when all of a sudden we couldn't drive from here to Riverside and stop along that road out there and pull over and look at the river. We was told that there was only going to be law enforcement activity in the areas where they were actually rounding up these so-called cows. Then but that didn't happen. Instead, the whole thing got shut down, lock, stock, and barrel. Well then, and again, this is what they said. It was only going to be in the affected areas. That wasn't the truth. Didn't turn out to be the truth at all. Well, then they turn around, they go down here, and they put a panel, a little pig pen, and they said all of a sudden, as Americans, guess what? My First Amendment right was able to put in that little pen down here. I thought my constitutional rights was good with me everywhere I went in this country. Didn't turn out to be the case. They was interpreting the Constitution for us all out here. This got pretty rank and it got pretty raw out here. And they brought it to town. And it wasn't only for the reason that they came to town, it was going to involve everybody here. And it did. So let's remember one thing whenever we're talking about the BLM, which is an agency of this federal government, this administration that's up there right now. I remember one thing, when it comes to honesty, people saying what they mean and then doing what they say. I remember a guy looking in the television, pointing at America and saying, if you like your insurance, you can keep it, period. So how much weight can we put in this plan at all? They're going to do what they want to do, unless we put a stop to it. This is our land, we have a right to use it, and we need to start taking that serious and understanding what the threat is here, folks, because you don't know what they've really got on their mind. This can go a lot further than anybody knows. All I know is last April, we got a lesson. We got a lesson from this agency. Let's not forget it.
Dana Lakeman, Mesquite. I don't know if it would help if these two folks would come up and explain the process that they go through to adjudicate the comments. Once these comments are put in, I can tell you what I would do and how I would handle it. For example, if I got a letter from the mayor that said, Dear Mr. Lakeman, on behalf of the 19 residents of Mesquite, our position on alternate 1, 2, 3, whatever they are, is this. That would hold a lot of weight with me when I was going through the comments. Comments like, it's not constitutional, comments like you don't have any authority, comments like that will go right in the round file. And I didn't see them taking any notes, and rightly so. The comments go in through, as they're obligated to do with every other comment, through their website. And that's the comments that they're going to adjudicate and look at. So if they would take the opportunity to talk about, and it would help folks here explain, what are they going to do once they get the comments, if that's appropriate. Thank you.
I was informed by my mom that I told you my wrong name, my maiden name. My name is Jolene Jensen Averett. Sorry about that. One thing that is confusing to me, and I think that bothers all of us, as Mr. Haven said, is that the options that can and may not or may be put in. I think all of us want is this is what our plans are, and not the different options. It gets confusing and it makes everyone feel like we're being lied to. Because you can say you wouldn't do that, or it may not happen, but it may happen. And that's the problem that I have is all the different alternatives that we can have. I'd like you to say, this is option number 1, option number 2, option number 3, and so on, and have it cut and dry. And then if something's going to change other than that, then to come back and try and change or add to it. But it's all these different options, like he said, over 6,000 options that could happen is what is most disturbing to me and my family. Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Dwayne McGinn. You know, you may, as a council, go back, get online and see what happened in Tombstone, Arizona 3 or 4 or 5 years ago concerning their water. Their water was located in a wilderness area. There were massive floods down there in the summer when the monsoon season came. And their water system was destroyed. They could not take mechanical equipment in. They had to get special permission from the federal government to get a wheelbarrow and a shovel to go in there. These are the things that we really need to be concerned about. These are the things we don't think about until the time comes. I happen to have a ranch out on the Arizona Strip that falls